everything in India today is governed by law. Rule of law is something that India follows since its inception in 1947. Uh, Now, laws, policies, mandates, everything emanate from one root document in India. That's the Constitution of India. Now, let us discuss how important a role the Constitution would play in even adhering to these public laws, health laws, and the vaccination policy as of COVID-19 today. Madhav, I would request you to trace the history and discuss in brief as to what is the role the Constitution would actually play.
Yes. To start with, Harsh, I would like to also make this statement very clear that I believe I can make this statement for both of us that most of us are not trying to promote the vaccination policy in any manner in this discussion. Neither are we opposing it. With today's topic in hand, I believe it only identifies the important legal aspects of law in relation to vaccines, if it is made compulsory and if not. So the rule basically the vaccine are incredibly safe, and yet no medicine is free from risk. We are absolutely beyond reasonable doubt that we are at the brink of a civil breakdown. We had to face the unprecedented outbreak of pandemic. The entire world, India is known as a developing country. We are facing large problems and difficulties as compared to the developed countries, the Western countries, as we all know. I mean, even the safest dose can generate rare and extreme reactions in a few people, if we all know. There are basically two benefits the vaccination policy which has been floated, or what people are pondering upon, the government is pondering upon whether it should be made compulsory or not. The two essential elements which I can see is that one is it protects every individual. Another is that if the vaccination is administered to every person in this country, which will eventually result into herd immunity. If you have a herd immunity, if everyone develops a herd immunity, then we are going to surpass this pandemic like we surpass polios or plague or H1N1 or swine flu. So not many people know this, but India rather had this act, a draconian, one of the most oldest act, dates right from pre-independence era, called as the Vaccination Act. It was made or introduced by the British government of India in 1880, and which was further amended and designed as compulsory vaccination in 1892. The aim and object of this act was to ensure that every person is vaccinated for smallpox pandemic. That time, India was going through a outbreak of smallpox. As we all know, smallpox, very similar to COVID, is a contagious disease. COVID is one of them. And the government that time decided or thought it fit to come up with an act, come up with a law which would compel everyone, which would ensure every citizen of the country to get vaccinated. Now, this law did apply to post-independence to our independent Republican country as well. But for some reason in 2001, it came to be repealed. Now, post that, India has two acts which predominantly dominates this field of pandemics or disasters. So there are two central acts called as the Epidemic Act 1897 and other is the Disaster Management Act 2005. Both are central act. Meaning of central act means that the central government, that is the Union of India, has the upper hand, the authority, the ultimate authority to amend or implement such laws. That means every single state and the union territories have to follow these laws, it's like the IPC and the CRPC, the Constitution of India, which are the central acts. Now, the till 2020-21, if I'm not wrong, the Disaster Management Act did not apply to pandemics. It came to be amended because we had to face such end of the days, as everyone hoped, or rather feared to see the end of the days. And when we saw the entire country where we had to undergo a strict lockdown, so the government decided to amend the Act of Disaster Management Act, and it added a definition of natural disaster or a pandemic also under the definition of Disaster Management Act. So under the section 2 of the Epidemic Act, the government has every possible power to take measures, corrective measures, precautionary measures to ensure that the epidemic is controlled and everyone is safe. Whereas the Disaster Management Act is more about infrastructure, maintaining the infrastructure, making medical infrastructure available, acquiring infrastructures for availing various platforms for maintaining or rather controlling the infrastructure of controlling the epidemic. So this is how it predates and it proceeds till date, that it was initially the Vaccination Act 1880 by the British British government, and now which came to be repealed, and now the Indian government came up with these two acts, which were not known to many, including most of the lawyers. But then because of these pandemics, we have to deal with it.
Right. So when we were preparing for this panel discussion, Madhav, you mentioned that apart from the Epidemics Act, the Epidemic Act, and the DAMA, like I call the Disaster Management Act, you also mentioned that there are other aspects of a citizen that need to be adhered to now that we are in the post-colonial era and we have the constitution now in power. For example, you were talking about life and liberty, you were talking about equality, and you were talking about religion, which would play a vital role even in something as a vaccination. You could, if I would request you to, throw some light on what equality were you talking about? How were these fundamental rights that you were going to say would play a major role? And eventually, I would like you to discuss on this one aspect, that if there were a situation where we had a uniform civil code and no religion was part of the entire discussion, would it still have a vital role to play where one person would be following a faith and would think of not getting vaccinated or being vaccinated under that faith? If you could take up this topic for this further discussion.
Yes, Harsh. It's a brilliant reminder. So basically, yes, our country is governed by one apex law, which is called the Constitution of India. Many people fumble or rather get confused in answering what constitutional law is. But it's very simple. It's one line answer, which I often help my juniors or the fellow colleagues, is it's a law which governs this country. That means no person, no government, no authority can make any law which contradicts Constitution of India. Now, Constitution of India gives variable and variety of rights in favor of us, that is the citizens of our country. Now, what happens is most of the countries like Epidemic Act, Disaster Management Act, or this policy of vaccination policy where people are thinking whether it should be made compulsory or not, again, is an endeavor by the government in favor of citizens to ensure that everyone is safe. They are trying to ensure and provide a platform or an infrastructure where you have a safe life. And that power is given again by a Constitution of India under Article 47, as we know, Harsh. There is a directive principles. Under Article 47, the directive principle of state policy, this is the nomenclature of this article, which empowers and authorizes the government to do or not to do few things. Like we all know that liquor advertisement is not allowed in Maharashtra or in India. You cannot have liquor advertisement on newspapers or TV channels. Again, this is an endeavor again to promote that have a healthy lifestyle and don't have an addiction. Similarly, on those lines, we have few fundamental rights. Every citizen of a country has fundamental rights. Fundamental right gives you right to life, liberty to life, right to speech, right to choose profession under 19(1)(g). But all these rights have a certain reasonable restrictions. As we know that voting is not a fundamental right. Many people misunderstand this, that voting is a legal right. Right to property also, that I have a right to buy any property, does not mean that it is your fundamental right. Yes, you have a legal right, provided there are few conditions, you check box all those parameters and you can buy a property. Right to contest elections or stand and hold a public office. As we all know that if you are convicted by any court, no person can hold a public office. That is the precise reason why Lalu Prasad Yadav, if I'm not wrong, Harsh, you can correct me, definitely, had to
Perfect.
or had to step down from his office because he was convicted, which is running his sentence right now in Bihar. So, I mean, this all began, if I may take the liberty to how this all began, the policy, whether it should be made compulsory or whether it should be an option or a condition, is it all began with the famous tennis player Novak Djokovic. He was the first person who said that, no, you can't compel me to have the vaccination. I can choose not to. And that's when there were a wagon of people who came up on social media saying that, fine, we are anti-vaccine, anti-science. No one can foolproofly state that vaccination thoroughly avoids infection of COVID-19. So that's how it all began. And again, today, as India is standing today, we are on the optional ground that India is giving you an option that the vaccines are available, you can go and administer it. But whether it should be made compulsory or not is upon the government. Now, when anything is implemented in India, there are many people like human rights, environment, right to life, right to speech, right to privacy, right to religious freedom. Yes, again, right to religion, right to privacy is there. It's given in fundamental rights to us through Constitution of India. But again, it is with reasonable restrictions. So there's one article called as 19(6), 19 subclause 6 of the Constitution of India. So 19 clause 1, clause G says that you are entitled to any business. You are entitled to follow anything what you feel like this in the country. However, 19(6) says that no, yes, you can, provided if there is a law barring you from doing anything, then you cannot. So, I mean, in the case of the Supreme Court has squarely covered in the case of K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India, where that the right to privacy is a legal right. It is not a fundamental right. It, yes, it may curtail certain rights, but yes, you are given a right to religious freedom, provided that the embargo, the ban, the objections, the conditions which are put forth through a law are reasonable, they are fair, they are justifiable. If those conditions are met, if the parameters are met, then yes, you can follow, you can have right to privacy, you can have a right to freedom. But that does not mean the government of India can suo moto unilaterally compel anyone to take vaccinations in India.
Right. So now, when you talk about right to privacy, are you talking about whether it should be declared that someone has taken a vaccine, or it's a private choice whether I should take a vaccine or not? How is it that you are trying to put this in context?
I mean, if I draw this analogy with polio, hepatitis, malaria, there are a few, apparently there are new vaccines for malaria also. Smallpox, plague. The government did not compel anyone. Yes, they had bribes. They requested citizens to go through it, because at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, the citizens are found in queue outside the government setups, government hospitals, begging for medical infrastructure, medical attention. But today, India stands on optional ground, optional footing, that yes, the vaccines are available, and yes, you can go and take them. They're administering vaccinations, but so far there is no compulsion, and I think that's how it should be. As long as the government thinks like Britishers, or under the Epidemic Act, they think that no, nothing doing, they want to implement vaccination as a compulsory mandate in this country, then they have to go through by tabling a bill in the Lok Sabha, then in Rajya Sabha with majority votes, and then the consent of president. What is your take on this, Harsh? I mean,
No, right. I mean, I completely agree with your analogy of vaccination is akin to voting. I mean, it's like how we always tell that one should vote. One should vote always. And at the same time, if we say that, look, if you're not voting, and thereafter if you suffer, then only you are to blame because you did not participate in the voting,
correct.
in the election. Similarly, if you're not getting vaccinated and you get infected, and you are the cause of contagion being spread around your vicinity, and you are isolated through means of detention or something, that's your own reason to suffer. It's a perfect analogy. But at the same time, Madhav, I am slightly in disagreement in terms of privacy. uh, I believe, in my humble limited opinion, that it is necessary to know whether a person has been inoculated, administered the vaccine or not, because we are societal creatures. We don't exist independently. We exist in crowds, especially in India, where in a square feet we are square kilometer. I'm not talking about square feet also. I'm talking about square kilometer. We are about 10,000 people, which is, I mean, 100 times compared to most of the countries on the West, or one in Europe. So I believe that as a government, it is not wrong if the government tells you that you need to have some kind of document that says that you've been inoculated. This brings my conversation, I'm sure you must have understood, to the recent concept of these vaccine passports. Immigration visas were are now becoming a thing of the past. I think today, when you're going to stand in the long line of immigration at 4 in the morning in one of your tourist loving spots like the Hawaii or the Cuban islands, you're going to be checked whether you've been vaccinated 2 shots or not, and rather whether you are allowed to enter the country or not by way of immigration. So, I mean, that that does infringe privacy, but I think it's required. I'd be safer if the person ahead of me or sitting next to me or the person behind me has some document to show that the past 24 hours that I spent with him on the flight, I am safe because he's taken the vaccine, and vice versa, him would fail safe qua me. So, what's your take on this passport vaccine concept?
Absolutely brilliant insight, Harsh. And again, it's a great point. I mean, yes, it is required for everyone to take vaccination. No person like to be jailed or be sitting inside a lockdown. Everyone wants to make this life, rather get the life back on track. If I'm not wrong, African countries, the African continents often require a condition when you land in their country, that if you have not taken the vaccination up for yellow fever, or if the stamp on your passport does not reflect that you have undergone the yellow fever vaccination, you are not allowed to step into that country. Yes, these kind of
Right.
conditions can be implemented, definitely. When foreigners flow into India, they can be asked that nothing doing, you have to get the vaccination done with both the shots, and only then you are allowed to enter the country. Yes, it is necessary. So far, India has not seen anything of this nature which compels anyone to be at the gunpoint. So, if I am not wrong, during Indira Gandhi's tenure, she had Hum Do Hamare Do was her drive, and she was, there are many government setups were running from one village to another. And if I'm not wrong, from the stories which I've heard from our village and elderlies, that there were people who used to come from medical setups, government medical setups, and they used to force the post 40, 50 years old to undergo the surgery for population,
Sterilization.
correct, the family control operations. But that was, again, it was under the garb of administrative orders. It was not a law, and it was heavily criticized, of course, by citizens and by the oppositions. But now, when a human is seeing the end of the day, we have no other option than to think that yes, it is necessary. So, what I sincerely am of the opinion is that instead of making it compulsory, because again the liberty and the privacy and fundamental right comes in picture, and like it's a long queue for framing the law, tabling it, getting it passed. It should not be another example of section article 370 of Kashmir, that overnight it should be or like demonetization, where people government should come up with law. But yes, it should be a condition precedent. Like if you want to enter a government setup, you need to, like nowadays we have Aadhaar card. We both know that Supreme Court has declared Aadhaar card is not compulsory. But predominantly, in any manner, wherever we apply for passport, the first document they ask is Aadhaar card. It's one document, if you have a green channel to anywhere. So people try to bypass the this headache of having PAN card, driving license, ration card, or property papers also are acceptable under the eye of law. But they're like, people are generally of the opinion that this one document gets you through all, they might as well take it. Similarly, as you rightly pointed, the passport or a document which shows that yes, you're vaccinated, then you will be allowed to have a free walk anywhere.
Right. Yeah, talking about the Aadhaar card, it's like if you want to enter a bar for a drink, you don't need the Aadhaar card. But if you want to enter the bar for practicing, you need the Aadhaar card.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. Madhav, I'll take you slightly off track. It's about public law only. We know that law originates from customs, maxims, traditions,
Yes.
and we are aware of this. We are aware of this maxim right from law school. It's been an answer for most of PILs getting junked. Is that salus populi suprema lex? Welfare of the public, welfare of the population is the highest order of law. Now, tell me, do you think this requires reasonable restriction now? I mean, the government can't just come in with any kind of law. For example, now what if they come with a policy to mandate vaccination in the name of welfare of the public? Do you think this requires some kind of legal boundary in terms of everything cannot be colored with the same paint and said that, oh, this is public welfare and you cannot, it's not prone to judicial review. You can't object to it. What's your take on this?
Okay, so by the way, everything cannot be colored with the same paint. Beautiful line, Harsh. So there are two anecdotes or other two anecdotes and one example which I would like to share is, yes, our country law really gives immense power to the executives to implement and the parliament to frame laws. At any extent they can do it. Now, if I am sure, Harsh, you know that in Kerala, you can't have your own wine shop. liquor store. Every single liquor store is owned by government. Again,
Right.
they have done it under the directive principle of state policy. The aim and objective is to ensure, or the endeavor of the government is that don't get into addiction, don't have malpractices, don't sell cheap adulterated liquor, which results into food poisoning and then multiple deaths. In such times, government does have power to implement laws. Now, for instance, if you take an example of an army officer standing on a border, if you give an option, now this is a very debatable question. If you give him an option that now he says, I am standing on the border, but fine, I don't want to take the vaccination. Will the army allow him to do so? Will the citizens say that nothing doing, you are the person who entitles our, ensures our safety and security? So, yes, reasonable restrictions can be placed by the government. What I am again of the repeating the same thing again of the same opinion that at the most the government can have conditions on it, like in Israel and in UK. Israel is known as a country with 100% vaccination, but still in second wave they underwent a lockdown. UK underwent under lockdown even if they were administered with the 2 shots of vaccines. No country so far is making it compulsory to their own people as a law. It is a condition precedent, fine. It is a condition implied or applied, whatsoever you may assume or you may take, fine. But it is a condition. People are feared of their own life. And I believe that should be the only option, is that it can be made conditional, but making it compulsory may invite a long drawn legal battle. Then, as we all discussed, liberty of speech, liberty of life, everything comes up. Then again, the right to privacy will be highlighted again. Right to religious offerings will be highlighted again.
Right. Prisoners' rights also will play a major role.
Absolutely.
Compulsory vaccination for prisoners. I mean, what kind of classification are you going to do? Under trials are going to be vaccinated as prisoners. I mean, that's an unreasonable classification under Article 14. Under trials are still not convicts. They are not guilty of their crime. They are still waiting the judgment. They could be acquitted. At the same time, people who are incarcerated, are you going to be giving them vaccination? They are not going to be freely roaming in the crowds. Do they require the vaccination? COVID has touched the prisons. I mean, it just
Absolutely.
blasts a whole can of worms.
Today's newspaper has published that they are arranging a COVID drive in Arthur Road jail and all the central jails. So at one hand, the prisoners have right, howsoever wrong they have done. Every prisoner has right, and I think that starts from Bhagat Singh and Manmohan Gandhi
Yeah.
ji. So these people were the pathfinders. They laid the foundation for a person's right even after being convicted or being under trial. Even though they are in prison, they have rights. And today, at one hand, if, like, for instance, Sanjay Dutt is an example where he wanted to come out on furlough.
I was just going to say that.
People were creating hue and cry that how can you release him? He's been out for 13 times or 10 times or 5 times and so and so. But that is what the law is. It provides those rights and liberties in favor of every person, whether you have done wrong or right. Yes, you have done wrong, then there are certain conditions. You are supposed to be behind bars. If you have done no wrong, then you are supposed to be inside your house, walking in free roads, and where you can ask for anything from the
Concession.
government for the welfare or concession. Perfect.
Right. In fact, Sanjay Dutt is a very good example of another aspect of criminal law. I mean, we are moving ahead from vaccination, but Sanjay Dutt's incarceration or the time that he was spending in Yerwada is in fact a part of a reported judgment where home food can be allowed at regular intervals to even incarcerated convicts and not just
That is
pending
correct.
trial prisoners. And it's a reported judgment of the Supreme Court of India. Not
That is,
many know about this.
I mean, it is surprising. Not many people know that we are talking about vaccination policies, whether it can be made compulsory or not. During Indira Gandhi's time, or later than that, in the case of S.R. Bommai, which is Union of India, the Supreme Court clearly held that if emergency is declared by the president or the governor, in the case he represents the president for the state, any state, then although we have fundamental rights, but in emergencies, the fundamental rights can be suspended. Enforcement of fundamental rights can be suspended. That you can't go to the court and says that you can't go and say that my fundamental right is violated. Your enforcement of fundamental right is suspended for a while until the emergency ends. But applicability of fundamental right is still there. That you still have fundamental rights. You have right to live, easement right to have a good health, right to be fed, right to have access to water, air, shelter, whatever. But you can't enforce that. No, I want to vote. I want to contest elections. No, you can't enforce an emergency. Similarly, today we are facing an emergency situation where the country has come to, lockdown. And today, I guess it's been 2 days now. The time limits have been lifted from 7 to 11, say 7 to 2 o'clock. So today is the first day, rather 2 days, we are enjoying this liberty of maximum hours.
Right. We entered into unlock.
Correct. So reasonable restrictions are required. Compulsory, it's a long shot, but conditional should be is what I feel.
Right. In fact, I was also going to talk about this one aspect that shockingly, we say that India is a country of, I believe the last time I had seen the number was 18,000 villages or something. And I checked today about the literacy rate. And I know I sound absolutely anti-national when I say this, but I was shocked to know that India's literacy rate is 74%. To a country which has 74% literacy, you don't need to mandate a productive aspect of life. For example, I mean, these vaccinations, okay, they've had only limited amount of research and clinical trials of a year or maybe slightly over a year, but there is a higher chance that these vaccinations will bring some kind of immunity to you rather than being completely non-inoculated and being exposed to the virus. So in a country where there is 74% of literacy, mere advertisement, suggestion, and advice should function to achieve maximum vaccination rather than having a policy or a mandate as form of a law where there is, if you are not going to comply with it, there are detrimental uh, sections that act against you. For example, there could be detention, there could be mandatory quarantine till you don't accept that. So like you say, I agree that I still don't see a reason to make vaccination mandatory. However, as much as promoted, as much as widely spread, as easily available, should be the target that the government should achieve. At the same time, we are seeing three different kind of vaccines available in India. We have the Covaxin, that is Atmanirbhar. We have Mr. Poonawala's Covishield, which is like how at one point of time our honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said that that's bringing the world to India. That's a AstraZeneca and Poonawala making a collaboration to bring in Covishield. And then there is absolute FDI, in my understanding, in this field of importing Sputnik V or Sputnik 5, whatever is the name. I feel there should be some kind of uniformity in the vaccines. What do you have to say on that?
So, whether vaccination should be mandatory under law, again, people, or rather we all, there's a lack of medical proof till date. no authority, including the United Nations, WHO, has been able to table any report with solid proof that this is the ultimate medicine. This is what it eradicates. So in lack of medical know-how, we have no other option than to go and take the medicine, the vaccine. So, I mean, precaution is better than cure always. And yes, we are one of the largest population in this country, and the literacy rate is 74%. Yes. I guess day before yesterday, there was an article in a beautiful newspaper, which I often read, called as Sikkim Express. There was an article with a headline that Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji feels that the vaccination is absolutely important. So the endeavor by the government, by most of the state bodies, is to promote and push people to go for vaccination, even though there's a lack of medical proof and any journal supporting it. But then, yes, there is at least a hope of immunity. There is at least a hope that you'll come back alive from the hospital. I'm surprised. It was, there are only 4 vaccines which are still available globally. One is Moderna, which was administered globally at the maximum numbers. Like most of the developed countries were given Moderna. If you see the website data of WHO, it says that the maximum countries and the maximum vaccination ever administered so far is Moderna. Then came, shockingly, Covishield, which was manufactured and, of course, with the R&D of University of Oxford University, which was manufactured and it was given to India for multiplying. So Serum Institute of India, and India being known as the country which has the infrastructure to have maximum vaccination, production of maximum vaccination, does not mean Covishield is prepared by us. No, it is just multiplied into a voluminous number to cater to people's need. So the second vaccine which was administered throughout the globe, most of the UK and the European Unions and European countries, and few Russian East European countries also, was Covishield at number 2. Number 3 was Pfizer. So the American continent was divided into Moderna and Pfizer, and Covishield on a certain level. And then at the 4th rank is Sputnik. So Covaxin, even though I'm proud Bharat Biotechnic has been the pioneer of coming up with this vaccine, and being an Indian, of course, we should all promote Indian vaccine. But the hard reality is globally, no one knows about Covaxin. 1. Number 2, the WHO has not given any recognition to Covaxin, is as much as what I have read from the news articles. The recent news article which I read also says that the Covaxin registration is recently done by the government of India, External Ministry, and has submitted very recently to the WHO for recognition. So once it is recognized, so the Bharat Biotech can also share it with neighboring countries or friends, allies.
Right.
But if there is no, I'm just one sentence, Harsh. If the core question is, if we are not given adequate number of vaccines, this is what we are going to end into debates, into discussions, into pondering whether the law should be. Now, for instance, if the law is made compulsory tomorrow, like demonetization, tomorrow night, 12 o'clock, at the stroke of 12, India awakes with the new law saying that vaccination compulsory. But are the vaccinations available, even though the law is in hand?
Right. That's an absolute chiller. In fact, another rude shock that a lot of Covaxin inoculated, I wouldn't call them patients, but a lot of Covaxin inoculated citizens would realize is that if you want to travel abroad, if you've been inoculated by Covishield, you are exempted from quarantine. But if you have been inoculated Covaxin, there are countries which mandatorily make you go through
Oh,
quarantine.
is it? Is
So,
it?
for example, For example, now Italy, as of yesterday, has invited tourists to, start flourishing their country. They are saying that they've opened up, and they're soon going to be maskless, etc., etc.
Yes, yes, yes.
But there is a very thin asterisk, very thin mutual funds are subject to market risk sort of uh, situation where they mention that your vaccination has to be either AstraZeneca, has to be either Pfizer, has to be
Modern.
either or Moderna. That means if you fly in with a Covaxin, you are going to have a longer vacation in Italy, 14 days of seeing 14 days of seeing outside your hotel window, and then whatever is remaining of sightseeing.
Or
So
maybe
that's a
14
rude shock.
an average Indian will come back to India in 14 days.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe it could just be any Indian and not just average Indian, but then that's a discussion that I'd like to keep it for another time. So now, Madhav, I remember you discussing some statistics that you wanted to put forth for our
Yes,
audience here today.
yes,
So I'm just going to throw it open to you. You can discuss these statistics, beg your pardon. And then I have small certain things to just add.
absolutely. So I have prepared a dashboard, uh, the latest numbers basically. So India today, India is the second country which has administered 20 crore vaccination. It stands after USA. Even after this number, India still is lacking of vaccination, availability of vaccination. So, I mean, taking one more step, I mean, I really hope that we all don't just sit home waiting for Covaxin. Every vaccine is a beneficial vaccine. It gives you certain amount of immunity. A gives you 74, B gives you 80. Nothing is above 90 so far. So I would, you know, want everyone to have vaccinations quickly. But yes, the statistics at the dashboard is that the the last census was conducted in 2011. The Indian population that time in 2011 was 121 crores, whereas today, as per 2019 expectations, India has crossed 135 crores, and as counting 2021, we have reached 138, 139 odd crores population. We still stand second in the world after China. We Indians form our population is equivalent to 17.7% of the world population. And out of the entire country, 35%, the numbers have drastically changed. Earlier, 80% people used to be in rural areas, and hardly 15 to 20 people used to be in urban area. But now, as of today, and as of the statistics available online, 35% of Indians are found in urban areas. Even after having quite large number of vaccinations, but we still about 80% of, or rather 90% of people are not vaccinated. Now, you know, the COVID dashboard as on 18th of May 21, India has 2,17,719, 2,17,719 deaths so far. That is 0.023% of Indian population. It's only, I know death is a death and it's a large number also. However, if you know that our late erstwhile minister Sushma Swaraj, she gave a speech in UN in 2017 regarding she made a statement regarding the status in Jammu and Kashmir. So she made a statement that from January 1990 to January 2017, total 41,900 people have died in violence. That comes to 0.33%. That's not, I mean, so COVID numbers, death is negligible in front of the deaths in. I'm just giving you a comparison.
Bare statistics.
Correct. So now WHO's statistics on their website shows that globally, so far there are 35,30,582 deaths. However, we all know, because we keep watching news, Indians are known to be survival of the fittest citizens and people on earth, Chinese and Indians, are found in any part of the globe, and they can come out with colorful ideas because they have the hunger to survive, and they are well read through newspapers or channels or nowadays WhatsApp. So in 1990, India, or rather the entire globe, was facing the same pandemic. It was also called as the Spanish flu. During that time, the world's global death count was 5 crore. Today, the global death count is 35 lakh and all. And India's death in 1990 recorded, the official number is 1.8 crore. So I would say that yes, we are far betterly placed today. Awareness, education, medical infrastructure available is there. People are scared, they take their abundant precaution, they stay indoors, they wash their hands, they use all the measures to be safe. But yes, maybe the desperate times is calling for desperate measures today. We need to ensure that conditions should be put for vaccination, provided there are availability of vaccinations also. It's no one can shake hands with a clenched wrist. It's a give and take relationship between a government and the citizens.
Fantastic way to close. I mean, no one can shake hands with a clenched wrist. Absolutely. So, right now, just narrowing down the entire perspective of what you mentioned, I have certain aspects that, I'll just touch upon very briefly. We all talk about directive principles, okay, of the Constitution of India. As much as we have fundamental rights, we have fundamental duties.
Absolutely.
Now, when it comes to a situation of adhering to a law, now we cannot deny that the Epidemic Act is in place. We cannot deny that the Disaster Management Act is in place. The Disaster Management Act was very discreetly and very smartly amended to include pandemics into 2020.
Yes.
And thereafter gave the Honorable Home Minister, through the Disaster Management Authority, powers to literally sweep off people off the roads.
Yes.
The year of 2020 must have seen the emptiest roads Bombay has ever seen since 1950s. So I understand that while these were required steps that the government took, today when a vaccination is available, like I mentioned before, as a citizen, now I'm going to talk purely as a citizen, not even going to talk as a neutral stand between the judiciary, between having an understanding of how the executive functions and being a citizen. Today, I'm going to talk purely as a citizen. There has to be uniformity in vaccination. These 90%, 74%, 60% immunizing, providing vaccinations that you mentioned. All right, that is what the vaccine manufacturers have been able to manufacture. The statistics of the clinical trials and statistics of what are the side effects, statistics on who have been researched, on whose all these have been tried, or who are the trial patients, needs to be made public. As of now, today, that is not available. It has to be made available in a certain manner where trust can be generated by those uh, datum sheets. Today, pregnant women are unsure. The BMC is saying pregnant women and lactating women are safe to, it's safe for them to be inoculated. However, at the same time, Tamil Nadu is refraining from inoculating pregnant women for 15 to 18 months until their children have been born. Now, at the same time, MP has had no understanding about lactating women and pregnant women. Coming back to an age bar, there is no. There are people, we see things like on Instagram and Twitter. One of the best mouthpieces for BMC and Mumbai Police. You have these 102-year-old gentlemen showing that I was given the shot here. But boss, not all 102-year-old people are the same. You have to tell me, you have to check the validity as to my health. The vaccine is individual specific. It's not herd specific. It's not going to be administered and going to achieve the same result in everyone. Now, I need to know data. That data needs to be made available. And one another thing that I've been seeing the trend today is that the government is trying to get as many people vaccinated as soon as possible. Like we said, it's optional today. If I choose to get vaccinated after 50% of the country has gotten vaccinated, that means if I choose to be vaccinated after a year, will there be a vaccination available for me? There needs to be a constant inventory in place. And finally, I think that as a government, if you are going to bring in vaccination, if there is a policy to make vaccination mandatory, you have to bring it in places where everyone is accessible for it's accessible to everyone at the same time. Just because it is mandatory, you can't have school drives where the parents are not available with the children to stand when the children are getting vaccinated. You can't have them in for example, in hospitals, that before you get admitted you have to get vaccinated. So there has to be an equal ground. All I'm asking is the level playing field at all times. And I think the government today is still has not obtained that level playing field. Apart from the commercial aspect, which we are not even discussing today because of Salus Populi Suprema Lex, whoever is making most money out of it, whether it was available, 600 is a profit, 300 is a profit. I'm not discussing that. But today, if I want to choose, if you are offering three vaccines, am I in a position to choose which of the three vaccines can be inoculated with? Not possible today. So these are aspects which the government has to absolutely make sure, like you correctly said, availability of vaccines. All of this has to be made publicly available. Information has to be publicly available. There has to be an infrastructure. And I believe now, in a situation where we are still faced with the pandemic, there has to be a special setup of infrastructure for people with side effects, obviously grave side effects coming out of these vaccinations. Today, if I've already suffered a grave side effect from this vaccination, already dropped my immunity, and if I enter into a hospital which is thronging with COVID patients, am I going from a frying pan to a fire, or I don't know. Am I walking the Undertaker walk to the graveyard? So these are things that obviously need to be put into perspective. Vaccinations, like you correctly said, have been introduced in 1880 to the Vaccination Act. Thereafter, the only broadly internationally made compulsory vaccine was the smallpox vaccine. In fact, there's a landmark judgment of the Supreme Court of India called Jacobson versus Massachusetts, where Massachusetts was one of the 11 states which made smallpox vaccine mandatory. And what had happened was this gentleman Jacobson deferred and was taken into detention. His detention was challenged all the way to the US Supreme Court. Now, His Lordship Justice Harlan said that like I mentioned, I in fact quoted him much before in our interaction, that we are societal beings. We are at some point responsible for others, and therefore our refusal for something that is considered to be beneficial for common beings amounts to violation. However, it was eventually held in that judgment that compulsory vaccination is not violative of the 14th Amendment, where the rights were actually granted to the American citizens. So again, like we said, making vaccination mandatory in India would not violate rights, but would stamp upon a lot of easy access or easy living of a lot of people. I'm I'm still very I'll be very candid, and pardon my candor. I'm still very uh, skeptical about being inoculated for a reason that you see, you are a getting the herd immunity through vaccination. In my understanding, is something that I'm not happy with. The herd immunity, which originally came in as the early concepts of battling with COVID, was to get COVID, and now it has been changed to a concept of being administered live vaccines that are isolated from the original strain. So eventually, you are still stuck to that concept that everyone should be infected with COVID. So these vaccinations are making you immune by getting infected, however, getting infected through a very streamlined, medically advanced source. I see, Madhav, from your face that you are not entirely happy with what my opinion is, but that's something that I feel. If at one point of time, uh, it was made mandatory, I would be one of the first people to challenge it. And obviously, I would not have to think about costs of getting a lawyer because, well, I am one and I have good offices with you that you would represent me.
So, I mean, if I may just add on
Please.
that, yes, after hearing whatever you said, it really makes a lot of sense. And which boils down to one question: is availability or non-availability of necessary medical infrastructure. If it is made available, like today, polio has been, we can proudly say, polio has been eradicated. I'm sure we all come across these municipal corporation doctors and nurses who walk from building to building and marking their, affixing their mark on the building that the building covered. And they see if there are any children, they record the children, how many kids are there, what are the ages, and they administer the polio doses. The reason why we today stand at better footing in respect of polio is because the country ensured to overcome that. It took some time because polio is not contagious. But yes, in India ensured that to overcome that, and today we are out of polio. But again, Indian law, for instance, as you said, that the Supreme Court judge of America says that we are responsible for others. It's a domino effect. One thing leads to another. That's why the break the chain fund of this word was introduced. Break the chain. Don't let the domino effect take place. So if you are responsible for others, the same analogy can be drawn that then I have a right to talk on the phone while driving, or I may have the right to be under the influence of alcohol while driving. This may be a different phenomena where I am infected with something, and if I touch something, I'm going to endanger his life. But in a similar way, if I am going to be under influence of alcohol and I'm driving a car, I am ensuring that there's a possibility of a person standing on the pavement, sidewalk, or footpath may be a victim, or I may lose control and I may drive my car on the footpath. One do not know. There are many examples in our country which has happened this way. So, but yes, yes, there is a fear. There is few certain doubts in many people that whether one should take vaccine or not. But then, whatever the scientists and the theory and the reports or journals say, that vaccine does not mean you are COVID infected. It is an inactive cell which is introduced, which is inactive, which is dormant, which is dead, but in a different foreign pattern it is introduced in your body, which your body is not used to. And as we all know, when an infection enters, white blood cell attack it, and that's how they learn how to kill it. That's how the immunity grows. Immunity means the blood cells know how to tackle a certain problem. I am of the sincere opinion that yes, we do all have options of thinking, pondering whether we should take or not. But it's need of the hour that we all should be safe. We all need to very soon meet together, gather under one shade. Like the Americans very recently has given liberty to all the citizens that if you are vaccinated with 2 shots, you can have a cookout outside your house with 15 people with no mask. And as very rightly said that, yes, I hope India achieve this day. And age barrier, as you rightly highlighted, I have no answers to that. I mean, that age barrier, I think, is the only phenomena in India. I have spoken to a few youngsters in America, Boston. They were vaccinated even when they are in school. Yes, preschool kids are not given so far, but there is no such thing as age bar. And that is how the United Kingdom came out of the second. So India went under strict lockdown in the first 2020 because it got scared. It was the strictest lockdown ever, right? Eventually, post Diwali, we all got tired, or rather, most of the Indians were tired. They wanted to go out, have fun, start earning. A lot of NPAs were happening. So they came out, and in 2021, the second wave came, and even today, India is a textbook example of a great measures taken by a country to control COVID in first wave. India is the best country as a textbook example. As compared to other countries, we had very less numbers as compared to this year. But in second wave, This is what UK did. They administered Covishield at least one dose to everyone, so that even if you're infected, there is a possibility, or a rather large possibility, of you coming out safely, because there is a certain amount of immunity. Whether it is 70%, 80%, doesn't matter, but there's something in you. So with the growing times, population and adulterated food with Coca-Cola and biscuits and burgers and Coke, our immunity as it is going to dogs. So it's better we get ourselves vaccinated, and conditions, of course, should be implemented by the government, but I don't think compulsion could be an easy option.
So meanwhile, I want to ask, there's a lot being talked about the Pfizer's policy that, it wants the Indian government to sign the indemnity clause. So can
So,
y'all,
Malvik, right.
yeah,
Madhav, I'll take this up and then please do elaborate on it, because
Then I
you will
think
have
Harsh
more
is the
information,
best
I'm sure.
person to answer this.
yes. Harsh, before
No,
can you explain what is an indemnity clause? Because many are law students. So yeah.
so indemnity clause by default would be, I'm doing something for you. In return, if that is to go wrong, you will not come after me.
Correct.
You are aware that I'm doing this for your benefit, taking a risk. That's a very general way of explaining what an indemnity clause would be.
I should not be held
All
liable.
right. I should not be held liable. Now, this aspect of vaccine manufacturers is another ball game. Today, see, India is a country where something unfortunate does happen. It rarely boils down to the doctor. You may abuse the doctor, you may abuse the drugs, you may say negligence, but when you take it to trial, when you realize that the doctor has taken all their efforts, you realize that, okay, it was a death which could not be uh, you know avoided. When it comes to vaccination, what happens is it's a mere inoculation or administration of a dose of vaccination. Now, there are two aspects that are majorly involved in this. One is the person who is administering it. Two is talking about the dose itself. Now, under the Vaccination Act of 1880, India has made it compulsory that the person who is administering the vaccine has to be a medical practitioner, has to be educated about administering the vaccine. On the other hand, now when it comes to the dosage is something that is created on a large scale. For example, in this current scenario, by isolating a strain of COVID virus, to see what is the situation on, I wouldn't say curing it, but how you would be able to bring out an immunity to it. Vaccine manufacturers do it with a certain understanding, certain research, certain clinical trials. If it is to fail because of the geological situation of the citizens of a country, because you have not given that manufacturer a chance to try that vaccine in your country, and since your country is in need of vaccinations, Pfizer would ask you that you indemnify us, that you will not come litigating against us, that there was negligence, your dosage was improper, incorrectly calculated, unbalanced. Therefore, Pfizer is taking its chance to say that, look, we are giving you what you need, but don't come after us. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madhav.
Correct.
Now, in India, vaccination that is manufactured in India already has vaccine manufacturers immunity under the national vaccination policy. There is because each under the vaccination policy, you require at least 5 years of clinical trial data. That data is then put towards the ICMR and the medical council. It's a whole different aspect of the commercial aspect of the vaccine. It does not come under public health law. So these indemnifications are given because of the constant communication between the governmental aspect, that is the ICMR, and the private aspect, that's the manufacturer. Now, Pfizer has not got that chance in India because it is simply importing. Pfizer and Sputnik, in fact, are just majorly importing the dosages to be directly inoculated. And that's the indemnification that they want, that you, In case it fails, in case it does not give you immunity, in case it gives you gross side effects, it's not Pfizer who is responsible, but the government of India who told Pfizer to give the dosages without clinical trial.
So basically,
Yes.
to boil, I mean, to make it short and precise, is there is a supplier. He is going to supply goods to you. Howsoever the goods are, you have to, even if you buy, you have no right to sue him. So now today, as
Right.
we stand, if I'm not wrong, now there's a new theory based upon one of the biggest virologists from America saying that the possibility of virus being laboratorically escaped cannot be ruled out. So now they are finding that this is not natural from bats, it is laboratorically escaped.
Yes.
So if this can cause this pandemic, this outbreak, then what is the guarantee that these vaccines may not cause any other grave side effects? So Sputnik is in India. They have not entered into any such clause with Indian government. Neither has Covishield. So Pfizer is just playing on, because only on one trump card, which I feel is that time it was Trump in America, and that was a trump card they use. That since we have administered entire America, the strongest economy, you can't, and they have also entered into this clause. You can't ask us to enter into this clause. So it's about a country whether to bend or either mend to their ways or not.
Okay. And Harsh, you talked about one participant has asked this question. You talked about the clinical trial data not being made public. So can a public interest litigation be filed for this, asking the
Well,
government to make the data public?
there are two ways to this. Public interest litigation, like we all know, requires uh, a genuine public interest at heart. Now,
Yeah.
this clinical data as of today is, in my understanding, sensitive, is in my understanding still under compilation. So it in as much as we do ask for it, it is too early a stage for it to be given out. Because see, before the clinical trial under the national policy for vaccination is 3 years. Now, obviously, the vaccinations have been inoculated, being administered before this time. Therefore, the clinical trials, if you do realize, are still on. In fact, very recently, Covishield and Covaxin have invited children below 18 years
Yes.
for clinical trials. So it's like a criminal investigation, Malvika. While the investigation is on, the information that is possessed by the investigating officer cannot be made public. Akin to something like a clinical trial, you can file a public interest litigation, but there will be the repercussion will be that the government and the courts will tell you that yes, you need to make this public, but it will be at the right time. There needs to be some kind of inference also of the data. You just can't throw data in public. You have to understand that when a doctor, when you go for a clinic test, when you go for a full body checkup, you see your lipid profile, you see your RBC, WBC, you see your HB1AC. They're all numbers on the report. You go to a doctor to get an inference observation on that report. So the compilation is one process. The doctors, experts working on that compilation and forming an observation, forming a verdict on that is another process. That verdict is what I'm asking needs to be made public, not the core data. The core data is something that you and I will not understand.
Okay.
So public interest litigation filed today will be tossed out saying that it's too premature. And yes, the information needs to be brought out, and it will be brought out once there is certain verdict has been
It has to
arrived.
be
It has been
decoded.
cross-checked.
For common man, it should be decoded.
And it also needs to be cross-checked with other countries.
Correct.
Was it the same that you have gotten?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Harsh said. I totally agree with what Harsh said. But of course, one important issue is India is not the R&D behind the vaccines, apart from Covaxin. So Moderna, Covishield, Sputnik, or Pfizer, all the data qua these four companies, if you want to get access, those are into foreign countries. PIL in our country is limited to our boundaries, our country's border. The Indian orders, even if you file PIL, can you make a foreign person a party? Even if he doesn't have an office over here. These four companies, for the first time have entered our nation. They don't have offices here. On the contrary, they are here to help us and to stabilize the collapse of medical infrastructure. So by filing PIL, asking data for these four companies, whether A, B, C should be made accessible, easily accessible or not, I think it cannot, because we don't have jurisdiction to touch offshore institutes or bodies.
Okay, interesting. There is one more question that when the second wave hit the country, there was a lot of anger against the government for their mismanagement and the way the vaccination policy was designed. So, can citizens sue the central government for the negligence?
In a way, yes, they can, but it's a civil remedy, not a criminal remedy. At the most, there could be a long drawn process where you can file a suit for damages, where you are hurt or neglected because of the actions taken by the government. Yes, you can. But again, in such situations where the population of the country is at stake and people are of the optimum use, I mean, citizens are the optimum for the nation. Yes, there are few lacunas which were seen in every possible developed countries also. Spain, Germany, Italy, UK, US were collapsing in first wave. We were doing far better. But yes, we are also a part of government. We are also a part of the nation and the governance. Yes, there were few loopholes, that the availability of vaccinations were not done properly. They could have done it better, but yes, you can sue technically as per the textbook definition. Yes, you can, but it's a long run process which will go on. You have to prove A, B, C, D. If not, why not? You need to have all the data, but technically as per book, yes, you can.
Okay, very difficult for a citizen, a common man to do that, right? With
A
the
common
fact.
man is suffering to survive himself. He will not go run behind courtrooms filing petitions, suing the government. Is
Yeah.
what I am of a sincere opinion.
Can WHO waive off the rights for individual countries? Like TRIPS agreement says under Article 31 that individual country can take a call and they can waive off rights. For example, if Covishield is there, so with UK and with the Sweden government, they can waive off the rights. So it's a WHO already declared this as a global pandemic. WHO as well as WTO. So as per TRIPS agreement, can WHO or WTO pressurize these companies like Pfizer or Johnson and Johnson for the waiving of the patent rights?
Great question again. Harsh, would you like to join or hello?
So,
Harsh?
yeah,
Please
I'm here.
proceed.
I'm here. Right. See, yeah, Sandesh, international law functions on two aspects. One is the interaction of countries, and two, on customs. There is, if you realize, there is no way that you can enforce an international law or part of a public international law on a certain country. For example, if any one country has uh, evaded obliging that law or obeying that law, at maximum you can have a sanction on it, an embargo. You cannot, for example, penalize the country. Similarly, like the WTO and the WHO are governing councils. They are not quasi judicial, they are not judicial in nature. Therefore, they can pressurize in terms of maybe negotiating some kind of terms for a country and a private manufacturer that is at some point of time eventually going to be submitting to one territorial jurisdiction. You understand? It's like I'm telling you that since you are the largest manufacturer in the world of this vaccine, and everyone is going to benefit from your vaccine, you have to give it free of cost. Now, you are obviously not going to agree on that. Similarly, if I'm a country like India and I have a success rate of say 90% of a vaccination that has been manufactured in my country, I will not submit to a foreign vaccination being given to my citizens, because obviously geological situation, geopolitical situation, all of these come into the play. So even under the TRIPS agreement, even if there is some kind of an obligation, it is a mere obligation that can be uh, pursued, that has persuasive value but not authoritative value. I hope I could
May,
answer the question well.
may I add on one thing? So there are many, as this is the platform for all law students, and sometimes these questions can be confusing to law students also. So the question by Mr. Jadhav was that whether the WHO can compel or force these Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson Johnson, Sputnik to compromise with their patent with other countries like India or developing countries or Asian countries which are in need. So what do you mean by this? So basically what this all news is going on is that there is a new argument out in open in media that if, for instance, Covishield, if the Covishield company or Pfizer is forced by WHO to share their formula, how they made the vaccine by showing pandemic, outbreak, end of the day, end of humanity, end of human race. So by giving on these grounds, as a, like we say, Armageddon, it's the doomsday. So on these grounds, can these companies be forced to share their formula, their hard work, their blood, sweat, and efforts which they have put in finding this formula to arrest or kill COVID vaccine or create immunity for COVID vaccine, COVID pandemic, COVID-19? Can they share that formula with other countries so that the other countries like India, for instance, when India is known as the major vaccination producer player in the world, the number one, they can get the formula, and India can, with the help of that formula, make those vaccinations in large volume and start supplying instead of waiting for the vaccinations to come through air or through ships. Now, as rightly mentioned by Harsh, that yes, if these companies are not signatory to any document with WHO, they cannot be compelled. But yes, as a WHO being the United Nations, as we all know, is a parent for the globe to survive after the World War II. It is more inactive method. It can negotiate or strike a deal to, help the countries like Indian or Asian countries to get formulas from these kind of companies. But why would a company who has invested so much give away the formula so easily? That's the short and sum and substance.
What I would like to specifically highlight and understand is that the government hospitals are unable to vaccinate the number of people who wish to get vaccinated on the premise that they don't have enough vaccines available. On the other hand, we find that the various private hospitals are carrying out multiple drives and selling the vaccination at prices which are far higher. Now, is this not violative of any law? I mean, is this in line with what the overall public policy should be and is?
I'll make it short and sweet. As per the Epidemic Act and Disaster Management Act, they have issued an administrative order notification allowing, entitling private setups like private hospitals to administer vaccines at large. Since it's a private vaccine, and as per the Indian law, government cannot have any interference in private setups. So since the government is requesting the private setups so to help their own platform, to help and to ensure that it reaches to every single institute, because there could be cases and scenarios and situations where the government bodies or government enforcement in infrastructure can't reach those areas. So India has many private setups spread throughout the country, and by way of notification, they have given a liberty to private setups to distribute vaccines. Now, this is a request, so it's an additional work upon the government, sorry, on the private setup, which they are already overburdened by the COVID patients. Now they have to take one more responsibility to ensure vaccination. In such cases, uh, when we take Covishield or Covaxin vaccinations from government setups, it's free of cost. However, when the vaccinations are taken from private setups, the vaccinations are not provided, as far as my knowledge is concerned, vaccinations are not provided by government directly. The private setups directly contract or contact the manufacturers like Bharat Biotech or Serum Institute, and they get the vaccines on a subsidized rate, and with some miscellaneous cost, they sell it for 900 rupees or 1000 rupees or 500 rupees. So yes, it is not violative of any rights. It is not violative of any law. It is the right given by the government to help the government itself to spread the vaccine, to ensure that the it reaches every corner of our country. And private setups, on the contrary, as per my opinion, are doing a good job, at least that Indians can at least spare or get some vaccinations, because we all know that India is doing really trying its best to scale up the medical infrastructure in the government setup, but it is far easier for a private setup to give better facilities. Like we all know that MTNL or BSNL customer cares don't reach for three days, even if you're in queue. But Vodafone, in 30 seconds, with the customer executive will be with you on the phone. Same thing applies here. The private setups infrastructure and response time is so phenomenal that it's a icing on the cake, is what I'm of the opinion. It doesn't violate any law. Harsh, would you like to add on something on this?
No, absolutely. This was your field of expertise. I have been just watching you in awe. I have nothing to add in this. I mean, you have absolutely nailed it.
Thank you for giving this opportunity.